Thank you so much, Philip. Thanks so much. And of course, the reason why we've invited you to be here today is not just because you're excellent at timekeeping, but because, as Philip has just demonstrated, he is, of course, one of the UK's most preeminent cycling advocates. And that reputation was forged not least through his stewardship of the late and, I should say, much missed Cycle England. So thank you for being with us here today, Philip. Now, also, yes, thank you, Ambassador, for honouring us with your presence today. Through you, I'd like to thank everybody in the Dutch Embassy and all colleagues in Holland who really did have a very, very important role in getting our campaign on the road. I think it's not too much to say that it would have been very difficult, possibly not possible, for us to have run Love London, Go Dutch, had it not been for your support. So thank you to you and all of your colleagues. Right, now I'm going to hit a button and hopefully my presentation will come up. I've not tried this yet. Let's see. No, it doesn't. Let's keep going. There we go. There we are. Very good. I exist. I'm on PowerPoint. Very good. Okay, so now, like Philip said, I do think actually we're at rather an historic moment, and in its own small way, I think this conference is also an historic gathering. Now, the reason why I say this is I've not been involved in cycling advocacy for very long, but I can't remember a time that I've been involved in which so many people from such a broad range of stakeholder groups, civil society organisations like London Cycling Campaign, high-level political representatives, the Minister is going to be with us soon, I hope, people from experts from Transport for London, experts from the Netherlands, political representatives from the boroughs, political advisors from all the major parties represented at City Hall are all gathered under one roof to talk about an incredibly ambitious and potentially transformative agenda, which is Love London, Go Dutch. I think it is as big and as important and potentially rule-breaking as I've just made out. And I'm going to give you some whistle-stop tour as to why I think Love London, Go Dutch, the campaign and what has resulted from it, has been so important. Now, just reflect on what we asked the mayoral candidates to do, and all of them signed up to this. They said that they agreed with the proposition and would back wholeheartedly efforts to make London more livable for everyone by making our streets as safe and inviting for cycling as they are in Holland. Now, that is an incredible benchmark. That is an incredible target and aspiration to set for our city. As the ambassador has told us, the modal share in Holland for cycling is 25, 28%, 80% of people cycle regularly. Or just go around Holland in the morning, you will see most kids walking and cycling to school. And cycling is universal. It is democratic. It is pluralistic in Holland. People from 8 to 80 years old are able to cycle for their everyday, local and sometimes not so local journeys because the streets are safe and inviting for cycling. And to set that kind of ambition and target for London, and I believe it is absolutely eminently achievable, to say from the top, from the mayor's office, that is what we should aspire to, is tremendously powerful. And so, of course, the big question is, how do we get there? Now, this is a question we were reflecting on. Just a backtrack, I think it's called a backstory. I'm going to give you a backstory as to how we got here. About 18 months ago, London Cycling Campaign sat down and said, well, you know, yes, things are changing in London. Things do look better. We've had a doubling of cycling, albeit from a low base of 1% to 2% modal share. You've got trendy, fashionable places like Hoxton, and the bicycle is your fashion accessory. It's not your clothes, it's your bicycle. That's how you show how trendy and fashionable we are. It's got cachet, which we've seen in the media. The media, and I'm not going to lump them all together, but I think it's fair to say 10 years ago it was ambivalent, potentially a bit hostile. Who are these cranks who are cycling around? Don't they want cars? What's wrong with them? Now things are changing. And the media, I think, a lot of commentators in the media are recognising the value that cycling has, not just for its economic and social and other values, but for the kind of cities that we want to have, for modern cities that enable their citizens to have a high quality of life. I think that is being recognised. We've seen that change. So that's a good starting point. But, and I suppose the Dean Yard example makes the point. I'm going to be the third person, probably not the last person to refer to it, but how many people here came by bike? And how many of you were as perplexed as I was to be asked to walk into a yard full of parked cars? And what did they do? Were they asked to get up and push? I mean, how did this happen? So, you know, this is the kind of thing that makes you frustrated. And when I was getting my kids ready to go to school this morning, I didn't take them to school this morning because I had to get here, but you look around and how many kids are walking to school? How many kids are cycling to school? It's just not happening yet. So we are not where we want to be, despite the rate of progress that has undeniably occurred in London. And we agreed with Philip wholeheartedly the single most important ingredient to unlocking this potential for cycling in London, you know, we've got 2% now, from surveys we think about 25% of people in London would like to cycle at a very, very minimum on a regular basis, is political will, the single most important ingredient. And how do you catalyse that? Well, as a campaigning organisation, a civil society organisation, we thought the best thing that we can do is to try and create mass public pressure in support of transformative and ambitious political will. So Love London Go Dutch was a result of that, and we decided most specifically that this wasn't going to be some sort of antagonistic, knocking, oppositional campaign restricted to the margins of society. We wanted this to be a campaign that would appeal to everybody in London, whether they cycled or not, so that we could create a mass upwelling of support that said to political leaders of all parties, you know what, you will have backing, you will have support. There will be a whole phalanx of people behind you giving you every backing and support that you need if you commit yourself to this agenda. And that was quite unusual, I think, for cycling campaigns here in the UK. And something else we did, which was a bit unusual, was to try and communicate with people, not just in terms of the intellectual arguments, environment, social cohesion, economics, and so on, but to appeal to their hearts as well. Not give people massive tomes, manifestos, detailed policy documents talking about lane widths and concrete and paint and centimetres and angles and speed limits and filtered permeability, not talk in those terms, but in talk in terms of what London could and should look like. Here I'll give an example of one of the visuals that we produced, a reimagining of Parliament Square. Now, if you came through Parliament Square like I did this morning on your bicycle, it's not particularly simpatico for cycling, or indeed walking. You try getting across it with your kids in the pushchair, which I've done. I'm sure many of you have done. It's not easy. But this is a square right next to the so-called Mother of Parliaments. It's a World Heritage Site. It's an embarrassment. It needs to be better. It needs to be a place that people can commune in, walk through, cycle through, sit down, have their lunch, enjoy the place that it is and its place in history. So we tried to reimagine what a Parliament Square would look like if it was transformed to be a better place through provision, good, continental, high-quality provision for cycling as well as walking. So appeal to people about, on the grounds of what kind of city do they want to live in. Okay, so what were the results? What were the results? Just, I'll whistle through. I'm going to put up 10 little points. Okay, you can look at them at your leisure. You can look at them on our website, but these are some basic principles that we established. We called them our 10 key principles around the Love London Go Dutch campaign, just to show that actually it wasn't just about painting pictures, but we had a set of guiding principles as to how you could create this sort of situation. So, putting safety first, making sure we learn from best practice, as Philip and the Ambassador have said, being adaptable, using whatever solution works at any particular place and time, not being dogmatic and ideological. Easy passage for pedestrians and cyclists, very important. We all want to go in more or less straight lines unimpeded, don't we, on our bicycles, and not be taken around the houses. Calm junctions. Harmony with pedestrians. There is no schism between cycling, measures to promote cycling and measures to make our city better for people to get about by foot. Harmony with public transport, the kind of integration that Philip was talking about, quality of life, putting that right at the top of the agenda. Durable and dependable and sustained and long-term political and financial commitment. Absolutely key for the bedrock, and engagement with the public and local communities to give people the solutions that work for them, not the solutions that are helicoptered in from some distant office somewhere miles away. Okay, how did it work out? Oh, Philip has stolen a bit of thunder. I'll keep going, Philip, I'll keep going. So, 42,000 signed the petition, and with due respect to the Excellent Times campaign, that's a bigger turnout than they got even. 10,000 people on the big ride, the biggest cycling advocacy ride we've ever seen in the UK. Full commitment across the political spectrum. All the leading mayoral candidates signed up to this agenda. 3 key specific promises, which we elicited from them. Our mayor is fully committed to, and get this, 3 world-class flagship schemes to demonstrate best practice in London for cycling and indeed for walking. Here's the big one. international best practice in all planned developments on the roads that the mayor controls. Now, that sounds to me like an enormously tall order, but our mayor is fully committed to achieving this in favour of cycling. And the Cycling Superhighways programme to be completed to international standards, all to be achieved during the course of the next mayor, or the present mayoralty. So that's the agenda. Oh, I should say also that as well as the Embassy of the Netherlands, we were supported, and thank you if we have a representative, I hope we do, from Brompton and Bywaters, here, Bywaters Recycling. So, delivery. Progress so far has been pretty good. Ben's around somewhere. He's been asked by the Mayor to review implementation of Love London Go Dutch, and I'd like to say thank you, actually, for the alacrity and support and creativity that Ben and his team have always given to cycling, and for the way they're rising to this particular agenda. It really is genuinely appreciated, and we recognise your efforts and those of your team, Ben. Flagships. The Mayor said we'll have 2 flagship schemes, 2 out of 3 at Vauxhall and Greenwich. And indeed, and I hope our Dutch colleagues don't mind a bit of friendly competition, in response to a Twitter question, the Mayor said, the Vauxhall development's got to be better than Amsterdam. Rock and roll. Cycling Superhighway number 2 is going to be extended to Go Dutch principles, as I understand it. The Mayor has written to us only the past few days saying the current Better Junctions review will also be a place where we will see Go Dutch principles explored, as indeed we should see in the Mayor's new road task force, which is looking at the long-term agenda in London. And I understand there is some sort of exchange programme going on with TfL already to work with colleagues around the world on best practice and how it can be applied in London. So really, and Philip needs to kick me off the stage, this really is just the start. I think what we have done in the London Cycling Campaign is try and create what I hope will be an ineluctable political commitment. The next stage, of course, now that the political promises are in place, is for all of us to shore that up by building genuine and credible partnerships for change and get ourselves onto an implementation agenda so that we can help the Mayor deliver on the promises that he has so clearly made and to which we, of course, as a campaigning organisation, look forward to congratulating him for achieving. So that's the agenda. That's why we're here today. I'd like to thank you all for participating and coming today, and I very much look forward to building some of those partnerships today and taking the agenda forward in a concrete and tangible way. I hope you enjoy today's conversations.